They say the heavens once belonged to gods. But what if they weren't gods at all? What if they were something far older? A civilization that didn't live on the ground, but above it. Ancient myths from around the world speak of the Sky People, beings who descended on beams of light, who shaped storms and controlled the weather as if it were their craft. From the Andes to Mesopotamia, from Africa to Japan, the same stories repeat. Builders from the clouds who could move mountains without touching them. High in the Himalayas, researchers have found ruins sitting on impossible peaks thousands of meters above where any ancient builders should have survived. Some of these sites show perfect stone cuts, magnetic anomalies, and even traces of radiation, as if energy itself once flowed through the air. Who were they? A lost branch of humanity that mastered anti-gravity? A species that built their cities in the sky, hidden above the clouds, watching the earth below. Ancient carvings show floating palaces, glowing discs, and winged machines described as chariots of fire. Could these be memories of the sky civilization? The ones who harnessed the power of storms and lightning long before recorded history? Maybe. When ancient people looked up, what they saw weren't gods descending. They were watching their forgotten creators returning home.
Beneath our feet lies a world we were never meant to see. A labyrinth of tunnels, chambers, and veins, not of rock or metal, but crystal. Across continents, explorers have found hidden caverns glowing with quartz and amethyst, massive enough to swallow skyscrapers whole. But what if these weren't random miracles of nature? What if they were the remains of an ancient energy network, a global system built to harness the planet itself? In old legends, crystals were never just ornaments, they were alive. Atlanteans, Lemurians, and even early Egyptians wrote of stones that could speak, transmit thoughts, and store power from the stars. Modern science now knows crystals can hold energy, data, even light. So what happens when you scale that power up to a global level? Imagine a network stretching from Giza to the Andes, each sacred site built where the Earth's energy lines meet, connected through crystal corridors deep below. An ancient grid pulsing with vibration, frequency, and light. Maybe that's why temples and pyramids hum at certain tones. They weren't just monuments, they were machines. Some believe the network still exists, dormant but waiting for the right resonance, the right frequency, to awaken the power that once made the earth itself sing. Before there were kings, temples, or even writing, our ancestors looked up and mapped the stars. But what they drew wasn't random. Across continents, separated by oceans and time, ancient carvings and cave paintings reveal the same impossible pattern. A map of the sky, charted with scientific precision tens of thousands of years before astronomy was even born. In the caves of Africa, dots and lines etched in stone match the positions of Orion and Sirius from over 36,000 years ago. In Siberia, megaliths older than Stonehenge align perfectly with the solstices. How could hunters and gatherers, with no telescopes, no math, and no language for science, have created something so advanced? Some researchers believe these weren't primitive humans at all, but survivors of a forgotten civilization, one that understood the cosmos as a living map. Others claim they were guided, taught by visitors from the stars themselves. Every ancient culture, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Dogon tribe of Africa, speaks of the same celestial teachers. They came from the heavens, pointed to the stars and whispered, "This is where you came from." So maybe the first humans didn't just look up for wonder. Maybe they looked up to remember home.
What if human history didn't unfold by accident, but was designed? Across the world, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of South America, ancient texts all whisper the same impossible story: that knowledge, cities, and even civilization itself were given to us, not discovered, gifted. The Sumerians said beings from the sky taught them agriculture, architecture, and astronomy overnight. The Egyptians spoke of Thoth, the god who came before time to bring writing and wisdom. In the Andes, Viracocha emerged from the sea and taught the people how to build with stone. Different names, same story, same pattern. How did humanity, scattered and primitive, suddenly leap from caves to kingdoms, as if someone flipped a switch? Some historians call it coincidence. Others call it intervention. Maybe there were architects, unseen hands that shaped our evolution, pushed us forward, erased their presence, and disappeared. Or maybe they never left. Maybe they're still guiding from the shadows, ensuring the blueprint stays intact, and that we never learn who really built us.
For centuries, people searched for Atlantis, the lost empire swallowed by the sea. But what if it didn't sink? It froze. Look at a map of Antarctica without ice. Satellite scans reveal mountains, rivers, and what appear to be ancient geometric structures buried beneath miles of frozen silence. Once, that land wasn't ice at all. Thousands of years ago, it was warm, green, and alive, a perfect place for a civilization to thrive. Ancient maps like the Piri-Reis chart show Antarctica's coastline with shocking accuracy, centuries before we ever discovered it. How could medieval sailors know the shape of land hidden under ice for millennia? Unless someone had seen it before it froze. Some theorists believe Atlantis wasn't a myth, but a memory, a real super civilization erased by a sudden pole shift that turned paradise into wasteland overnight. Its survivors scattered across the world, seeding the birth of Egypt, Sumer, and the Maya. Maybe that's why the world's oldest cultures all share the same story of a golden land that vanished in one terrible day, and of teachers who came from across the sea, carrying the memory of a sunken world. Perhaps Atlantis never sank beneath the ocean. Perhaps it's still there, entombed in ice, waiting to be found at the end of the earth.
The Great Sphinx of Giza, silent, timeless, unblinking. For centuries, it's been seen as a symbol of Egypt's glory. But what if the Sphinx is far older than the pharaohs who claimed it? Traditional history says it was built around 2500 BC, yet deep erosion marks on its body tell another story, a story of rain. The kind of rain that hasn't touched the Sahara in over 10,000 years. Geologists have found patterns carved by centuries of heavy rainfall, long before Egypt was even a desert. That means the Sphinx was already ancient when the first pyramids were built. So who carved it, and why? Some believe the Sphinx predates all known civilizations, a monument left by a forgotten people who watched the stars differently than we do now. Its gaze once pointed to Leo, the lion constellation, as it rose during the spring equinox around 10,500 BC, a time when the Earth itself was recovering from Cataclysm. Maybe the Sphinx isn't a monument to the pharaohs, but a message from the survivors of a world that came before Egypt. A warning carved in stone left to outlast the flood, the fire, and time itself.
Beneath the streets of Rome lies a secret that has never seen daylight. A labyrinth of sealed vaults stretching for miles beneath the Vatican, guarded, restricted, and locked away from the eyes of the world. Officially, it's called the Vatican Secret Archives, a library of ancient texts, letters, and history. But whispers say it holds far more than scripture. They say it hides the truth of humanity itself. From forbidden gospels that tell a different story of creation, to documents from lost civilizations, even relics that defy explanation. Some claim the archives contain proof of contact between early humans and beings not of this world. Others speak of maps that show lands erased from history, or prophecies that predicted every empire's fall. No one truly knows because almost no one is allowed inside. A handful of scholars under watchful eyes, and only for minutes at a time. Even world leaders have been denied access. Why such secrecy? What's buried so deep that it must never be seen? Maybe the Vatican isn't guarding faith, but the evidence that could shatter it. Somewhere beneath centuries of silence and stone, the truth waits, hidden in the dark, guarded by those who know the world is not ready to hear it. For thousands of years, Stonehenge has stood in silence. Massive stones perfectly aligned to the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. But the deeper scientists study it, the more impossible it becomes. How did ancient people, with no tools capable of cutting or moving 100-ton stones, build a structure that tracks celestial events with modern precision? And why does it resonate with electromagnetic frequencies that shouldn't even exist there? Some say it was a temple, others say a calendar. But one theory dares to go further. Stonehenge was built by time travelers. Each stone is placed with mathematical accuracy only achievable with advanced knowledge of astronomy, physics, and geometry. Knowledge humanity supposedly didn't have for another 4,000 years. What if Stonehenge wasn't built to honor time, but to control it? Legends tell of the builders who came from nowhere and walked between worlds. What if these weren't myths, but witnesses describing something they couldn't understand? People stepping through time itself. Maybe Stonehenge was never meant to be a monument. Maybe it was a machine, a gate built by those who could bend time, leaving behind a marker for when they'd return. Deep in the heart of the Sahara Desert lies a formation so vast it can only be seen from space. A perfect spiral, 50 kilometers wide. They call it the Eye of the Sahara, but some call it something else, the remains of a lost civilization. Satellite images reveal circular rings carved into solid earth, shaped not by wind, but by design. Geologists call it natural, yet its symmetry, its layers, its strange magnetic fields all whisper of something man-made. Ancient historians once described Atlantis as a land of concentric circles of water and land, a perfect match to what we see today beneath the African sands. Coincidence? Or the last scar of a city erased by cataclysm? The Sahara wasn't always desert. Thousands of years ago, it was green. Rivers, lakes, and forests stretching for miles. What if, in that forgotten age, An advanced civilization thrived there until a sudden shift of nature buried it in sand and silence. Artifacts have been found near the eye, mysterious stones, tools, and fossils that don't belong to any known culture, as if the desert itself is trying to keep their story hidden. Maybe the Eye of the Sahara isn't just a geological wonder. Maybe it's a footprint left by a city so ancient, so advanced, that history itself had to erase it.
History says the Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century. But what if it never did? What if Rome didn't fall, it transformed? Changed its armor, its language, its face, but kept its power hidden beneath new names. After the so-called fall, Roman laws, architecture, and symbols mysteriously reappeared across Europe. The double-headed eagle, the fasces, the Latin phrases carved into new empires. It's as if Rome's shadow stretched across centuries, invisible, but always in control. Some historians believe the Roman elite never vanished. They simply went underground, merging with the church, the banks, and the royal bloodlines. Through the Holy Roman Empire, through the Vatican, through secret societies, the empire continued, unseen but unbroken. Even today, we use their calendar, their alphabet, their systems of law and government. Our cities rise upon their ruins. Our rulers still bear their titles. So did Rome ever really die? Or did it achieve what no empire ever could? Immortality. Maybe the Roman Empire didn't fall at all. Maybe we're still living inside it.
Every ancient culture tells the same story. A flood that came without warning, swallowing mountains, cities, and empires in a single night. For centuries, historians called it a myth. But what if it wasn't? What if the Great Flood was real and it changed the world forever? Around 12,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened. Ice sheets melted with explosive speed, sea levels rose over 400 feet, and the planet's climate shifted overnight. Entire coastlines vanished, taking civilizations with them. Underwater ruins off the coasts of India, Japan, and the Caribbean hint that people once lived where the ocean now reigns. Geologists call it the Younger Dryas event, a mysterious global disaster possibly triggered by a comet impact. Fire from the sky, flood from the earth, exactly as the ancient texts describe. The Sumerians, the Maya, the Hopi, and even the Bible all tell of survivors, a chosen few who carried the memory of a drowned world. They became the seed of the next civilizations, the rebirth of humanity after the storm. Maybe Noah, Utnapishtim, and the others weren't legends. Maybe they were witnesses, the last voices of a forgotten age that ended beneath the waves. And if it happened once, who's to say it can't happen again?
Hidden deep beneath the Vatican lies a vault so vast it stretches for miles, sealed behind steel doors, guarded day and night. Inside are over 12 centuries of history, and perhaps secrets that reach beyond this world. Whispers from insiders tell of documents describing otherworldly visitors, encounters recorded by priests, astronomers, and saints, letters between popes and kings about objects in the sky, beings of light in knowledge that came from above. The Church has always claimed these stories were symbolic, but what if they weren't? In 1998, the Vatican built one of the world's most advanced observatories, not in Rome, but in the Arizona desert. Its purpose? To study the heavens. Its name? The LUCIFER telescope, a strange choice for a place devoted to God.
Some believe the Vatican already knows we are not alone, that long before NASA, it possessed records of ancient contact, scrolls, carvings, and artifacts proving that visitors from the stars once walked among us. Why hide it? Because such knowledge would rewrite creation itself. It would challenge every foundation of faith and power built for thousands of years. So maybe the Vatican isn't just guarding relics of the past, but evidence of the beginning, the moment humanity first met the ones who came from the sky.
For centuries, people have wondered, how did the ancients move stones that weighed over 100 tons, with no cranes, no iron tools, and no machines? The Great Pyramid alone contains 2.3 million blocks, each placed with laser-like precision. But what if brute force wasn't the answer at all? What if they used sound? Ancient texts from Egypt, Tibet, and even the Bible describe sound as a weapon, a tool, a force that could move mountains. Priests spoke of tones that could lift the heart of stone. Tibetan monks claimed to move boulders with horns and chants that made the air vibrate. Modern experiments show that sound waves, at the right frequency, can make objects levitate. What if the builders of the pyramids mastered this secret thousands of years ago? Imagine resonating chambers beneath the pyramids, amplifying specific tones. Imagine a group of priests chanting in perfect harmony, each vibration loosening gravity's grip, causing stone to rise like dust in the wind. The Great Pyramid isn't just aligned with the stars, it's tuned like an instrument. Its chambers vibrate at frequencies that match the Earth itself. Coincidence? Or a clue left behind by those who built with resonance instead of labor? Maybe the pyramids weren't just tombs. Maybe they were machines of sound, monuments built by those who knew how to speak the language of the Earth itself.
High above Earth, in the silent darkness of space, something is watching. It doesn't transmit like any human satellite. It doesn't move like one either. Astronomers call it the Black Knight, a mysterious dark object orbiting our planet for what might be 13,000 years. The story began when early radio operators in the 1920s picked up strange signals, repeating patterns that didn't match any known source. Decades later, during space missions, astronauts reported seeing a massive black object circling Earth, something not launched by any nation. Photos from NASA's own archives show a jagged metallic shape drifting in the void, too large to be debris, too stable to be an accident. So, what is it? Some believe it's an alien probe, placed here long before humanity could even dream of flight. A watcher, silently observing our evolution. Others think it's a remnant of a forgotten human civilization, proof that space travel existed long before history began. NASA calls it space junk. But if that's true, why were the photos removed from official databases for years? Maybe the Black Knight isn't just watching. Maybe it's waiting for the moment we become advanced enough to finally answer the message it's been sending for 13,000 years.
History tells us civilization began around 6,000 years ago, with Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley. But what if that timeline is completely wrong? What if humanity's true story stretches tens of thousands of years further into the past, and entire ages of our existence have been erased? Deep beneath deserts, jungles, and oceans lie ruins that defy explanation. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built 12,000 years ago, appeared suddenly, with no trace of a society advanced enough to build it. Massive stone pillars carved with animals, aligned to the stars, constructed before writing, before the wheel, before cities even existed. And then there's the underwater ruins of Yonaguni off the coast of Japan, a sunken city carved with terraces and steps now buried beneath the sea. Carbon dating suggests it was built when ice still covered half the planet. Could these be the remains of civilizations wiped out by the global cataclysms at the end of the last ice age? Ages that rose, advanced, and vanished long before our recorded history began. Ancient myths all tell the same story of gods and giants, of lost worlds destroyed by fire and flood. Maybe they weren't stories at all. Maybe they were memories, fragments of an older humanity we've forgotten. What if we aren't the first version of civilization on Earth, but just the latest in a long cycle of creation and collapse?
Across every continent, ancient legends whisper the same impossible story, that long before us, giants walked the earth. Not myths, not metaphors, but towering beings of flesh and bone, rulers of an age that history refuses to remember. From the Bible's Nephilim to the Norse Jotnar to the Sumerian Anunnaki, the tale repeats. Beings of enormous strength who shaped mountains, built cities of stone, and mingled with early humans. But what if those legends were born from truth? In the 1800s, newspapers across America reported giant skeletons unearthed from burial mounds, some over 12 feet tall, with skulls twice the size of ours. Farmers in Wisconsin, miners in Nevada, explorers in the Middle East all claimed to have seen the same thing, remains of a race that shouldn't exist. Then, as quickly as they appeared, those bones vanished, collected by institutions, sealed away, dismissed as mistakes. But what if they weren't? Ancient megaliths like Baalbek, with stones weighing over 1,000 tons, suggest builders with superhuman strength. Petroglyphs and carvings show humans standing beside towering figures, as if remembering their former rulers. Maybe the giants weren't gods, but the first civilization, wiped out in the cataclysms that reset the world. And maybe, buried deep beneath our feet, lie the bones of a truth too massive for history to accept. Because once, long before our time, giants ruled the earth.
Long before religion, before empires, before even written history, the skies were filled with visitors. At least, that's what the ancient Sumerians believed. They called them the Anunnaki, beings who descended from the heavens to shape mankind in their own image. The oldest texts on Earth, the Sumerian tablets, tell a story that sounds less like myth and more like contact. They describe gods who wore helmets that shined like the sun, who flew in fiery chariots, and who came to Earth to mine gold, not for treasure, but for survival on their distant planet. One of them, Enki, is said to have created humanity by mixing their DNA with that of early humans, turning primitive creatures into a working species, us. The Garden of Eden, a laboratory, the gods, ancient astronauts. And when they left, humanity inherited their technology, their symbols, and their stories, which became the foundations of every religion that followed. Even now, carvings in Sumer, Egypt, and Mesoamerica show winged beings with strange devices, each pointing to the stars, as if reminding us where they came from.
Were the Anunnaki real visitors from beyond our solar system? Or were they the lost architects of humanity whose legacy still runs in our blood? Maybe when we look up at the night sky, we're not gazing into the unknown, but looking home.
The Ark of the Covenant, the most powerful relic in biblical history, said to hold the 10 Commandments, but described as something far more extraordinary and dangerous. The ancient texts warn, no one could touch it without dying. It glowed, roared like thunder, and struck people down with invisible fire. Priests carried it wearing protective garments, and only after elaborate rituals, as if they were handling a radioactive device. What if the Ark wasn't just a sacred box, but a technological artifact? Its design, gold over wood, layered precisely, mirrors a capacitor, a machine that stores and releases enormous electrical energy. Some researchers believe the Ark could generate or channel plasma, a weapon capable of fire, light, and destruction beyond comprehension. When Moses descended from Mount Sinai, his face was said to shine, as if he'd been exposed to radiation. And when the Ark was taken into battle, entire armies fell, not by sword, but by something unseen, something far more advanced. Could the Ark have been a gift or a remnant from the gods of technology? An energy device mistaken for divine power? If so, where is it now? Some say it was hidden before the fall of Jerusalem. Others believe it lies buried in Ethiopia, still humming with silent power, waiting for the day it will awaken once more. Because maybe the Ark wasn't holding God's word, but God's weapon. History says the mighty Mayan civilization collapsed and vanished without a trace. Their cities swallowed by the jungle, their people gone. But what if they never disappeared at all? What if they simply moved below? Across the Yucatan, vast cave systems stretched for hundreds of miles, rivers of darkness carved deep beneath the earth. The Mayans believed these caverns were sacred, gateways to Shambhala, the underworld of the gods. But to them, Shambhala wasn't a place of death. It was a place of transformation. Archaeologists have found sealed chambers filled with offerings, ancient stairways descending into unexplored depths, and even underground temples that mimic the stars above. Some of these tunnels go so far and deep that no modern explorer has reached their end. Could the Mayans have escaped drought, famine, or invasion by retreating into the earth itself? Maybe they built a hidden world below, carrying their calendar, their technology, and their cosmic knowledge with them. Legends from modern Maya descendants speak of those who went beneath, keepers of the old ways, who will return when the stars realign. So maybe the Mayans didn't vanish into history. Maybe they're still here, living in a vast subterranean kingdom, waiting for the day humanity above remembers who they really were. Because sometimes disappearance isn't the end, it's a return from the surface. For centuries, knights, kings, and secret orders have searched for it, the Holy Grail. The cup said to have held Christ's blood, a relic of divine power that grants eternal life. But what if the Grail was never a cup at all? What if it's something far more profound and far more dangerous? In ancient texts, the Grail is described not as a chalice, but as a stone that fell from the stars. The emerald stone, said to contain the wisdom of the gods, a fragment of celestial technology hidden on Earth. Some believe it was a code, the bloodline of divine knowledge, carried not in an object, but in people. The blood of Christ wasn't wine, it was genetic memory, passed through generations, protecting the secret of humanity's true origin. The Templars searched not for gold, but for information, traces of ancient power hidden in sacred geometry, lost texts, and beneath cathedrals built on energy lines of the earth. Even today, the Grail remains hidden, not because it's lost, but because we've been looking in the wrong place. It's not on a map. It's in our DNA, in the spark of consciousness that connects us to something cosmic and eternal. Maybe the Grail was never meant to be found because it was never a cup. It was, and always has been, the key to what makes us divine.
The Illuminati, a name that echoes through conspiracy and legend. Secret rulers of the world, masters of knowledge and control. But what if their story didn't begin in medieval Europe, but thousands of years earlier, in the cradle of civilization, ancient Sumer? Long before the pyramids, before Rome or Babylon, the Sumerians spoke of beings who descended from the stars, the Anunnaki. They brought language, agriculture, mathematics, and kingship, and with them a hidden order to guide humanity. In the cuneiform tablets, there are references to a group called the Luminous Ones, keepers of forbidden wisdom who served the gods directly. They ruled through knowledge, astronomy, and the manipulation of power, the first enlightened elite. Their symbol? A glowing eye, radiating light, the same symbol that centuries later would become the Eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye of the Illuminati. When Sumer fell, their secrets didn't vanish. They were carried into Babylon, Egypt, and eventually Europe, hidden within mystery schools, royal bloodlines, and secret societies, each generation guarding fragments of ancient cosmic knowledge about who we are, where we came from, and who truly rules the earth. So maybe the Illuminati aren't a modern invention at all. Maybe they're the last surviving branch of an ancient Sumerian brotherhood, the original enlightened ones who still hold the keys to humanity's forgotten past. Because in Sumer, the light didn't just begin civilization, it created the ones who would never let it die.
High in the frozen peaks of the Himalayas, beyond where any map dares to go, lies a place whispered of in every ancient tongue, Shambhala, a city of light untouched by time, hidden from the eyes of the unworthy. For centuries, explorers, monks, and even governments have searched for it, a kingdom said to exist between worlds, where gods walk beside humans and the secrets of immortality are guarded in silence. Tibetan texts describe Shambhala as a realm of pure knowledge, a paradise powered by unseen energy, protected by advanced beings who watch over Earth's destiny. Those who've claimed to glimpse it speak of golden temples that glow from within, of humming vibrations in the air, and of strange lights that move intelligently through the mountain mist.
Nazi expeditions in the 1930s sought it, believing it to be the source of an ancient Aryan wisdom, a lost civilization far beyond our understanding. But maybe Shambhala isn't a myth or even a place we can reach by foot. Maybe it's interdimensional, a hidden realm vibrating at a higher frequency, only accessible to those who awaken their consciousness. According to prophecy, when the world falls into darkness, the rulers of Shambhala will rise from beneath the mountains, bringing light, knowledge, and balance once again. So maybe Shambhala has always been there, watching, waiting, for the moment humanity remembers how to find the city of eternal wisdom in the heart of the mountains and within themselves.
Leonardo da Vinci, the man centuries ahead of his time. Inventor, painter, engineer, anatomist, visionary. But how could one man in the 1400s know things humanity wouldn't rediscover for hundreds of years, unless he'd already seen the future? Da Vinci's notebooks contained blueprints for helicopters, tanks, and submarines, machines that wouldn't exist until the modern age. He drew the human heart with surgical precision, predicted plate tectonics, and even designed a robot knight 500 years before robotics was invented. Where did this knowledge come from? Some believe Leonardo wasn't just a genius, he was a traveler, a man who stepped through time, carrying fragments of future technology and ideas. There are even theories that he appeared suddenly in history. No record of his early education, no mentor advanced enough to explain his brilliance. His cryptic mirror writing, strange symbols, and coded journals, could they have been a way to protect futuristic knowledge from those who wouldn't understand? Or perhaps to hide instructions for others like him? Some researchers claim his self-portrait doesn't age, that the man in his later sketches looks identical to one drawn decades earlier, as if time simply didn't touch him. Maybe Leonardo da Vinci wasn't inspired by the future. Maybe he came from it, a messenger trapped in the past, leaving behind clues of a world he already knew, and warnings for the one yet to come. Because sometimes brilliance isn't born, it's remembered.
The ancient Egyptian pharaohs, worshipped as gods, rulers of life and death, their power unlike anything the world had ever seen. But what if they weren't entirely human? What if the blood that ran through their veins came from somewhere else? Look closely at the carvings, elongated skulls, almond-shaped eyes, and bodies that seem to glow with divine light. The Egyptians said their kings descended from the stars, from beings they called the Shining Ones, who came down in fiery boats. These celestial visitors didn't just rule, they created. The first pharaoh, Narmer, is depicted holding tools of power that no one can explain. And the god Thoth, the bringer of writing and wisdom, was said to have come from the heavens in a blazing disk. Coincidence? Or the memory of an ancient contact? DNA tests from royal mummies have revealed non-human anomalies, genetic markers that don't match any known population on Earth. Why were the pharaohs obsessed with keeping their bloodline pure? Perhaps they weren't protecting royalty, but preserving something alien. The Great Pyramids, perfectly aligned to the stars of Orion, may have been not just tombs, but communication devices, built to bridge Earth and the homeworld of their ancestors. Maybe the pharaohs weren't gods pretending to be men,
but beings of two worlds, hybrids created to rule humanity on behalf of their creators. And perhaps, in ways we've yet to understand, their descendants still walk among us, carrying the light of the stars in their blood.
September 1666, flames consume London. Within days, the city is reduced to ash. Officially, it began in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane. But what if the Great Fire wasn't an accident at all, but a plan? Before the blaze, London was collapsing, crumbling under disease, corruption, and debt. The plague had killed thousands, and the monarchy was desperate to rebuild, not just the city, but its control. Then came the fire. Mysteriously, it spared the mansions of the elite while destroying the crowded slums. The medieval streets, impossible to govern, vanished overnight. And what rose in their place? A new London, cleaner, richer, and built under the Crown's design. Witnesses spoke of men seen starting fires in multiple locations. Some were caught carrying pitch and tar, yet records of their identities disappeared. Even the official investigation ended abruptly, blaming a random foreigner, a perfect scapegoat to calm the people. But here's what they never mention. The Rebuilding Act was drafted before the fire began. Plans for modern streets, new taxation, and royal control were waiting, as if someone knew what was coming. Was the Great Fire a convenient disaster? A controlled purge to erase the old world and rebuild the empire from the ashes? Because in 1666, London didn't just burn by chance, it was reborn by design.
History says Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, but centuries before his ship set sail, another group may have crossed the Atlantic, not explorers, but warrior monks, the Knights Templar. When the Templars were disbanded in 1307, they didn't all vanish into exile or death. Some escaped, taking with them ships, gold, and something even more valuable, knowledge. Maps, star charts, and ancient secrets they'd uncovered during their time in Jerusalem, clues pointing west across the ocean. Inscriptions found in Nova Scotia, Newport Tower in Rhode Island, and mysterious carvings matching Templar symbols all suggest their presence in North America long before Columbus was born. Even local native legends speak of pale-skinned visitors who came from the east, carrying crosses and sacred relics. The Oak Island mystery may be their greatest clue, a hidden vault of treasure buried with engineering far beyond its time. Many believe the Templars hid there not just gold, but the Holy Grail or even the Ark of the Covenant, brought to a new world to protect it from the reach of kings and the church. Columbus himself carried maps and writings linked to secret societies, as if he already knew a world existed beyond the sea. So maybe the discovery of America wasn't a coincidence, but a continuation, a journey that began with the Templars, driven by faith, knowledge, and a mission to build a new kingdom beyond the reach of Europe. Because long before 1492, the Red Cross had already touched the shores of the New World.
We're told the Dark Ages began after the fall of Rome, a time when knowledge vanished, technology regressed, and humanity forgot the achievements of the ancient world. But how does an entire civilization suddenly lose centuries of progress? Unless it was erased on purpose. For hundreds of years, there are no records, no inventions, no continuity, as if history itself was paused. Some historians call it the phantom time hypothesis, the idea that nearly 300 years of history were fabricated. But what if it wasn't fabrication, but reconstruction after a global reset? Across the world, at the same moment,
civilizations fell. The Maya, the Gupta Empire, the Chinese dynasties, the Byzantines. Cities were abandoned, climates shifted, and mysterious dust veiled the sky for decades, blocking the sun. Volcanic ash? A comet impact? Or something even more deliberate? Ancient ruins buried in mud, cathedrals and castles that shouldn't exist in their supposed timeline, suggest a world that was rebuilt, not born anew. What if the Dark Ages weren't dark because of ignorance, but because someone turned off the light? A reset to rewrite history, erase forbidden technologies, and reprogram humanity. When the world finally restarted, new empires rose, new calendars began, and old truths were buried beneath rewritten history. Maybe the Dark Ages weren't a period of chaos. Maybe they were a planned blackout, a global cleansing of memory, so the story of Earth could begin again, under new control. Because sometimes, to shape the future, you must first delete the past.
Beneath the sands of Giza lies a world no tourist has ever seen, a maze of sealed tunnels, forbidden chambers, and ancient technology lost to time. Egyptologists say the pyramids were tombs, but what if they were something else entirely? What if, beneath their foundations, lie the machines of the gods? Whispers from early explorers tell of metallic halls and humming sounds deep below the Great Pyramid. Old excavation maps, quietly removed from public archives, show massive cavities under the Sphinx and Giza Plateau. Even radar scans confirm structures hidden hundreds of feet underground, but Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities refuses to dig deeper. Why? Ancient texts speak of the House of Osiris, a chamber beneath the Sphinx said to hold the secrets of the sky. Inside, according to legend, are devices left by those who came from the stars, machines that once powered the pyramids themselves. The granite inside the Great Pyramid contains high levels of quartz, a crystal that can conduct electricity. The narrow shafts, perfectly aligned with the stars, might have once channeled energy, not souls. Was Giza an ancient power plant? And are the generators that fueled it still sleeping beneath the sand? Maybe the pyramids weren't just monuments to death, but monuments to technology so advanced it appeared like magic. And perhaps the real secret of Egypt isn't written on the walls, but buried below them, waiting for the day humanity rediscovers the ancient machines that once connected Earth to the heavens. Because under the pyramids, the past isn't dead, it's dormant.
The world believes Adolf Hitler died in a Berlin bunker in 1945. A bullet to the head, flames consuming his body, the perfect ending to a nightmare. But what if that story was written not to tell the truth, but to bury it? Declassified FBI files reveal that the United States never actually found Hitler's body. Witnesses gave conflicting stories, and the so-called remains burned beyond recognition were never DNA tested. Yet, after the war, U-boats were spotted heading south, disappearing into the frozen seas near Antarctica, a place the Nazis had secretly explored years before. They called it Neuschwabenland, a mysterious territory the Nazis claimed in 1938, where they built hidden bases deep beneath the ice. When Allied pilots flew over the region after the war, they reported seeing geothermal vents, metallic domes, and strange craft emerging from the snow. Could Hitler have escaped through secret routes, hidden by loyal SS officers who fled with him? Some say advanced Nazi technology,
the legendary Die Glock, a bell-shaped anti-gravity device, made that escape possible. Others believe he was taken by forces far older than humanity itself, into the hollow realms beneath the Antarctic ice, where ancient civilizations once thrived. When U.S. Admiral Richard Byrd led Operation High Jump in 1947, a supposed research mission, his fleet encountered mysterious flying objects, metallic discs that outmaneuvered every plane. Byrd's logs vanished, and he was silenced. Was Hitler there, alive, commanding the last remnant of the Reich? Or had he discovered something so powerful the world had to rewrite history to hide it? Maybe the war didn't end in 1945. Maybe it moved underground to the coldest, most forbidden place on Earth, where secrets of empire, alien technology, and humanity's darkest ambitions remain frozen in time.
In the quiet hills of Elbert County, Georgia, stood a monument unlike anything else in America. Massive granite slabs, arranged like a modern Stonehenge, engraved in 8 languages with a chilling message: maintain humanity under 500 million. To some, they were a call for peace and balance. To others, they were a warning. No one truly knew who built them. The name given was R.C. Christian, a clear pseudonym. The group behind them? Unknown. The funding? Hidden. The message? Disturbingly global. 10 commandments for a new world order, guidelines for humanity after an apocalyptic event. They spoke of population control, one global language, a single world court, and harmony with nature. Words that sound peaceful until you read between the lines. Who decides which 500 million survive? Who enforces one world? Locals whispered that the stones were astronomically aligned, tracking the sun, moon, and stars, as if prepared for the day civilization would be reset and rebuilt according to a secret blueprint. When researchers studied the Guidestones, they found hidden time capsules, encoded measurements, and symbolism linked to Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism, the same esoteric groups tied to world elites for centuries. Then, in 2022, just as global instability, pandemics, and population fears rose, the monument was bombed and mysteriously demolished overnight. The remains were cleared in silence, as if someone wanted it erased before people started asking too many questions. So what were the Georgia Guidestones really? A message from human idealists, or an instruction manual left by those planning a post-collapse world? Maybe they weren't predicting the future. Maybe they were preparing it.
What if the biblical prophet Moses, the man who led the Israelites out of Egypt, wasn't a Hebrew shepherd, but an Egyptian pharaoh? In the 14th century BC, one ruler defied Egypt's gods. His name was Akhenaten, the heretic king who destroyed temples, erased the old gods, and commanded his people to worship one single deity, Aten, the sun disk. It was the first recorded form of monotheism in human history. Akhenaten vanished mysteriously. His images were defaced, his name erased, his city abandoned to the desert. But centuries later, the story of a man who defied a king, spoke to one God, and led his people to freedom appeared in the Hebrew scriptures as Moses. Coincidence? Or did history split one man into 2 legends? Both Akhenaten and Moses preached the same idea: there is one true God. Both were exiled from Egypt. Both vanished into the desert, and both left behind followers who would reshape the world's religions. Some scholars believe that after Akhenaten's fall,
his loyal priests escaped Egypt, carrying his belief in one god, and their leader became remembered not as Akhenaten, but as Moses, the lawgiver. Even Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, claimed that Moses was an Egyptian noble, a disciple of Akhenaten's revolution. The Ten Commandments, the Ark of the Covenant, the very foundation of Judeo-Christian belief, may all trace back to the heretic Pharaoh's forbidden faith. If true, it means the world's greatest religions were born not on Mount Sinai, but in the sands of Egypt, forged by a forgotten king who dared to declare that there is only one God. Maybe Moses didn't learn from Egypt. Maybe Egypt learned from Moses, the Pharaoh who became a prophet.
In 1969, the world held its breath. Millions watched as Neil Armstrong took that legendary step, one small step for man. But what if that moment wasn't what it seemed? What if the moon landing wasn't staged to fake history, but to hide it? The theory goes deeper than Hollywood lights and sound stages. According to insiders, NASA did go to the moon, but what they found there couldn't be shown to the public. So they filmed a cleaner version back on Earth, a safe, controllable broadcast, while keeping the real footage locked away. Astronauts' heartbeats spiked during silent radio blockouts. Strange reflections appeared on their visors, not stars, not sunlight, but structures. Buzz Aldrin later hinted at something watching us. And after the mission, he and Armstrong both withdrew from public life, haunted by what they'd seen. Declassified transmissions from Apollo 11 include whispers of massive objects parked near a crater, objects that moved. Some believe the astronauts encountered ancient ruins, remnants of a civilization that once inhabited the moon. Others say they discovered an alien base, still active, still observing Earth. NASA's sudden end to manned lunar missions after Apollo 17 raises another question. Why did we never go back? If it was about science, why abandon the greatest achievement in human history? Unless the truth was too dangerous to reveal. So yes, maybe the moon landing was filmed, but not because it never happened, because it did. And what they saw up there would have changed everything we believe about human origins, the universe, and who's really watching from above. Maybe the greatest cover-up in history wasn't that we went to the moon, but what we found there when we got there.
High in the Andes, the Inca left behind walls that defy reason. Blocks of granite weighing tons, cut with surgical precision, fit so perfectly that not even a human hair can slip between them. No mortar, no machines, just impossible perfection. How did a civilization with no steel tools, no wheels, and no written language carve stone harder than iron and lift it into mountain fortresses like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo? According to legend, the Incas possessed a secret formula, a liquid that could soften stone itself. The Spanish conquistadors recorded it in their journals. Natives spoke of a bird whose droppings melted rock. And deep in the Peruvian jungle, explorers later found walls with melted corners, as if the stones had once been clay. Modern researchers have found plants in the Amazon that contain acids strong enough to dissolve limestone. Could the Incas have discovered a biochemical process that let them mold stone like wet sand, then let it harden into perfect blocks? Ancient stones across Cusco bear strange cup marks and flowing patterns, as if the rock was once liquid, poured and shaped by hand. The Incas even spoke of the stones that moved on their own, guided by sound, vibration, and sacred chants. If true, this means they didn't just build with stone. They grew it, shaped it, and fused it like living matter. A technology so advanced it vanished with the empire, leaving behind only the evidence we can't explain. The answer may not lie in lost machines, but in lost chemistry, the knowledge of how to command the earth itself. Because when you walk through the ancient Inca walls, you're not just seeing architecture, you're seeing a mystery carved, or perhaps melted, straight into stone.
We've been told the Great Wall of China was built to keep out invading armies, a line of defense against men, horses, and war. But what if that was only part of the truth? What if the wall wasn't built to keep people out, but to keep something else from getting in? Stretching over 13,000 miles, the wall snakes across mountains, deserts, and frozen plains, even through regions no army could have crossed. It guards nothing of strategic value, and yet it was built with obsession, generation after generation, as if protecting the entire heart of China from a force that couldn't be seen. Ancient scrolls speak of creatures of the northern darkness, spirits, beasts, and shadows that descended from the skies. Legends say the early dynasties battled demons of the wind, and that the first emperors built fortresses not for war, but for containment. Some of the wall's earliest sections weren't even facing the Mongols. They curved inward, surrounding sacred sites, as if to seal something within the earth. Beneath some towers lie strange tunnels, filled with symbols warning of the sleeping gods of the north. Could it be that the wall was built on older foundations, left by an even more ancient civilization that knew of something catastrophic, a force they feared would one day return? The Great Wall isn't a monument of war. It's a barrier of memory, a silent line between the world of men and the world that once tried to reclaim it. So the next time you look at the Great Wall, remember, it wasn't just a wall of stone, it was a warning, a message carved into the earth itself. Whatever lives beyond this line must never be allowed to cross again.
Hidden inside every cell of your body is a message, a code so complex, so deliberate, that some scientists now believe it didn't evolve naturally. They believe human DNA may contain extraterrestrial fingerprints. The double helix, life's most sacred design, holds over 3 billion genetic letters. But what's strange is how organized they are. Patterns appear that mirror mathematical sequences found in the universe, binary codes, prime number alignments, and structures that seem programmed, not random. In 2013, a team of Kazakhstan researchers proposed a bold idea that human DNA might contain an intelligent signal, a kind of biological message planted by an advanced civilization billions of years ago. They called it the biological SETI hypothesis, that we are not just the product of evolution, but a genetic experiment seeded across the galaxy. Our DNA contains junk code, sections scientists can't decode or explain. But what if it's not junk at all? What if it's encrypted information, waiting for the right moment or the right frequency to be activated? Ancient cultures all over the world spoke of gods who came from the stars and created humanity in their image. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki. The Dogon tribe of Africa spoke of beings from Sirius. Even modern DNA reveals sudden, inexplicable jumps, as if someone edited our code. Maybe we didn't just evolve on Earth. Maybe we were uploaded here. A self-replicating message carried through time, disguised as life itself. Proof that humanity's creators
were not divine myths or alien visitors, but genetic engineers from the stars. Because if DNA is a language, then somewhere out there, someone wrote it.
What if the Bible, the most influential book in human history, was never meant to be about religion, but about the stars? Across its pages are stories of gods, floods, prophets, and miracles, but beneath those words lies a hidden language of astronomy. A cosmic code rewritten and disguised as divine history. In the book of Genesis, creation unfolds in 7 days, but those days mirror 7 celestial ages, the great astronomical cycles known as the precession of the equinoxes. Each age, from Taurus, the bull, to Pisces, the fish, matches the symbols of the Bible itself. The golden calf, the Lamb of God, the fisher of men, not random metaphors, but astrological eras. The story of Jesus aligned perfectly with the transition from Aries to Pisces. That's why the symbol of Christ became the fish, and why he spoke of the coming water bearer, the next age, Aquarius. The 3 wise men? Not travelers from the east, but the 3 stars of Orion's belt, which point directly to the star Sirius, the same point on the horizon where the sun rises on December 25th, the birth of the new light. Every parable, every miracle, from Moses parting the Red Sea to the apocalypse of Revelation, may have been encoded celestial events. The movement of planets, the dance of comets, the rise and fall of cosmic ages. Ancient priests were not just storytellers, they were astronomers, preserving star knowledge through myth. But as empires rose, that cosmic wisdom was rewritten, turned from science into scripture, from sky maps into commandments. The Bible may not describe gods who live above us, but stars that rule over us. And perhaps the true message was never about salvation, but synchronization, aligning humanity with the rhythm of the cosmos itself. Because long before religion ruled the earth, the stars ruled everything.
Long before Columbus set sail, before compasses and telescopes, before civilization supposedly learned to cross the oceans, someone had already mapped the entire world. Across dusty archives and forbidden libraries lie ancient maps that shouldn't exist because they show continents, coastlines, and even Antarctica before it was covered in ice. The most famous of all, the Piri-Reis map, drawn in 1513. Its creator, a Turkish admiral, claimed he copied it from far older charts, ones from civilizations long forgotten. This single map shows the exact shape of South America's coast, accurate to within miles, centuries before any European ever sailed there. And at its southern edge, the unmistakable outline of Antarctica, without its ice cap. That's impossible, unless someone mapped it over 10,000 years ago, when Antarctica was still warm and ice-free. Then there's the Orientius Finaeus map, the Boache map, and others from the Middle Ages showing global coastlines as if copied from a single master source. A source that predates known history. How could ancient sailors know the exact curvature of the Earth, the precise distance between continents, or the shape of hidden lands beneath glaciers? Were they using advanced instruments we've lost? Or did they inherit this knowledge from a civilization erased by time?
a global seafaring culture that circled the world long before the rise of Egypt, Sumer, or Greece. Legends of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu speak of people who traveled by the stars, mapping the world from pole to pole. When the cataclysms came, their maps survived, secretly passed down, copied and recopied by explorers who never understood their true origin. So when modern history says the world was discovered in 1492, remember, someone had already been there. Someone knew the shape of Earth itself when the rest of humanity still thought it was flat. Because those ancient maps aren't just drawings, they're proof. Proof that long before our history began, the world had already been explored and forgotten.
Something happened to our planet, something so massive, so violent, that it tilted the entire Earth. Ancient legends from every corner of the world speak of a time when the sky fell, the sun changed its path, and the oceans swallowed entire civilizations. It wasn't mythology, it was memory. Scientists know the Earth's axis isn't fixed. It's tilted at 23.5 degrees, but it wasn't always that way. Evidence in fossils, ice cores, and magnetic rock patterns suggests that thousands of years ago, Earth's poles were in a different place. Antarctica, once tropical, froze in an instant. Siberia, once green, became a frozen wasteland overnight. Something shifted the planet. Ancient records call it the Great Tilt, the day the heavens moved. The Egyptians said the sun once rose from the west. The Hopi spoke of 4 worlds, each destroyed by a cosmic event. And the Bible, too, remembers it. The earth staggered like a drunkard. What could move an entire planet? A massive asteroid impact? A close encounter with a rogue planet? Or perhaps the passing of Nibiru, the fabled planet of the gods whose gravitational pull could have ripped the Earth from its axis. After the event, the ice came. Seas rose. Civilizations vanished beneath waves and sand. Atlantis, Mu, the city of the sun. And humanity, traumatized, rebuilt, rewriting myths to mask the truth of what they'd survived. Some researchers believe the pyramids, Stonehenge, and Machu Picchu were built to mark the sky before the shift, their celestial alignments now slightly off, as if they were once calibrated to a different Earth. If that's true, then every ancient monument isn't just a mystery of construction. It's a witness to a world before the tilt. Because the Earth you stand on now is not the same Earth that once was. It was moved, spun off balance by a forgotten catastrophe, and humanity has been trying to remember ever since.
For centuries, the Great Sphinx of Giza has watched over the desert, silent, eternal, unblinking. But beneath that ancient gaze, something massive is buried. Egyptian legends speak of a hall of records, a hidden chamber said to contain the lost history of humanity, scrolls, tablets, and devices from a civilization that existed before Egypt itself. Some call it Atlantis. Others say it's the resting place of the gods who came from the stars. In the 1990s, seismic scans under the Sphinx revealed anomalies, large rectangular cavities deep beneath its paws. The discovery caused panic among Egyptian officials, and suddenly, the research was shut down, access sealed, findings classified. Why would they hide what's beneath the Sphinx? Ancient texts from the Book of Thoth describe a vault beneath the lion's heart, where Thoth, the god of wisdom, stored records of humanity's true origin, knowledge too powerful for a world not yet ready. Some explorers who secretly entered the tunnels beneath Giza spoke of endless corridors, polished walls that reflected light like glass, and massive stone doors sealed with inscriptions warning, "Those who disturb this place
awaken the past. What if the Sphinx isn't a monument at all, but a marker, built to guard the entrance to something far older, something built before even the pharaohs knew of Egypt? Ancient priests believed the Sphinx was the watcher of the gateway, a guardian between worlds, protecting what lies below from being uncovered too soon. And maybe, just maybe, the day that gate is opened, the world will remember who or what really built Egypt. Because beneath the sands of Giza, underneath the world's oldest enigma, may sleep the oldest truth humanity has ever forgotten.
Thousands of miles apart, two civilizations rose from the dust, both obsessed with the stars, both building pyramids that reached toward heaven. Egypt and the Maya, separated by oceans, time, and history, yet somehow they built the same thing. The Great Pyramid of Giza and the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan share the same mathematical proportions, identical angles, cosmic alignments, and sacred geometry. Both are aligned to Orion's belt, both built with a precision that even modern technology struggles to match. But how? How could two cultures that never met follow the same blueprint of the stars? Ancient legends tell us they didn't work alone. They were taught. Both civilizations speak of sky gods descending in blazing chariots, teaching architecture, astronomy, and the secrets of eternal life. The Egyptians called them the Neteru. The Maya called them the Kukulkan or Itzamna. Different names, same description. Tall beings, shining faces, serpents of light. And it wasn't just the pyramids. The hieroglyphs, the calendars, the rituals, even the concept of the afterlife mirror each other like a reflection through time. Coincidence or connection? Satellite scans reveal both cultures built their pyramids over geological power points, electromagnetic nodes that pulse with the energy of the Earth, as if they knew exactly where to build to harness planetary power. Maybe Egypt and the Maya weren't separate civilizations at all, but fragments of one forgotten empire, a global network of knowledge left behind by a group of ancient builders who traveled the world long before recorded history began. The same minds, the same gods, the same purpose: to leave behind monuments that point not just to the stars, but to where they came from. Because maybe the pyramids aren't graves. Maybe they're markers, connecting two sides of the world to one shared origin, not of this earth.
They say history is written by the victors, but what if entire chapters of our past were deleted? What if the world we know today was built on the ashes of a forgotten global empire, erased around the year 1800? This is the mystery of Tartaria, an empire said to have stretched across Asia, Europe, and even the Americas. An advanced civilization with architecture so grand, technology so strange, and buildings so perfect that we still walk among their ruins today without even realizing it. Look closer at old maps. You'll see it. Tartary, clearly labeled. A massive landmass covering almost half the world. But suddenly, around the mid-1800s, it vanishes. Textbooks rewrite geography. Empires rise from nowhere. And the name Tartaria is wiped from existence. Then came the mud flood. Cities buried up to their windows, entire streets discovered underground, and buildings with doors and arches leading into what should have been solid earth. It's as if a worldwide cataclysm buried an older civilization overnight. Was it a natural disaster or a planned reset? The 1800s brought the world fairs. Massive displays of unbelievable architecture built, we're told, in just months, then mysteriously torn down after. But many believe these were not new constructions. They were remnants of Tartarian cities, redecorated and destroyed to erase the evidence. And what about the free energy towers, the ornate domes and spires topped with metal conductors? Technology hidden in plain sight. They weren't just decoration. They might have once harnessed atmospheric electricity, a global power grid long before Edison or Tesla. Then came the Great Reset. The maps changed. The world was divided. A new version of history was written, and all traces of Tartaria, its people, language, and technology were quietly buried beneath the mud of time. But the architecture still whispers. The domes, the symmetry, the impossible stonework. They tell a story of a lost empire that mastered energy, harmony, and design far beyond its supposed age. The question is, did the Great Reset of 1800 mark the beginning of our modern world, or the end of the real one?
For 2,000 years, one question has burned beneath the surface of history. What if the story of Jesus didn't end on the cross? What if his bloodline still walks among us? According to an ancient and forbidden theory, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were more than teacher and follower. They were husband and wife. And after the crucifixion, Mary fled across the sea, carrying something the church could never allow to be revealed: a child. Legends say she arrived in the south of France, protected by secret guardians, and that her descendants quietly merged with the Merovingian dynasty, the first royal bloodline of Europe. Kings said to rule by divine right, because their blood was not entirely mortal. Through the centuries, whispers of this lineage resurfaced in secret societies, cryptic symbols, and hidden manuscripts. The Priory of Sion, the Knights Templar, even the Freemasons, all rumored to protect the sacred family tree of Christ himself. Some say the Holy Grail was never a cup at all, but the womb of Mary Magdalene, the vessel that carried the blood of the Holy Line. The Grail wasn't an object, it was a genetic legacy. Why did the church spend centuries suppressing texts that mention Mary? Why did popes, kings, and inquisitors destroy records that dared to show her as anything more than a follower? Perhaps because proving that Jesus had descendants would shatter the very foundation of divine authority. From the shadows of history, symbols of the rose and the cross appear. Signs of a bloodline that survived in silence, moving through the centuries. Hidden behind crowns, coats of arms, and royal seals. Could it be that the monarchs of Europe, from the Merovingians to the modern royal families, carry the blood of Jesus within their veins? A line the church tried to erase, but which time refused to forget. If this theory is true, then the greatest secret ever kept is not buried in the sands of the Holy Land, but hidden in plain sight behind the polished gold of a royal crown.
They say the moon was born from the earth, a piece torn away in a violent cosmic collision. But what if that story is wrong? What if the moon didn't come from here at all? Because according to shocking new findings, and some very old ones, the moon might be older than the Earth itself, older even than the entire solar system. When Apollo astronauts brought back lunar rocks, scientists expected them to be slightly younger than Earth. But radiometric dating told a different story. The samples were billions of years older. Older than our planet, older than our sun, older than everything around it. How could that be? If the moon didn't form with us, where did it come from? Some ancient texts may hold a clue. Old Sumerian tablets speak of a time before the moon, when the Earth was a different world, and then a celestial body was brought to stabilize the heavens. Brought by whom? Even stranger, the moon's orbit is mathematically perfect. Its size and distance make solar eclipses align with impossible precision, and its density too light for its size. It rings like a bell when struck, as NASA once discovered during seismic tests, as if it's hollow inside, or at least not natural. So what if the moon wasn't born from Earth, but delivered here? A colossal artifact older than the solar system itself, placed in orbit eons ago to influence tides, stability, and even life. Ancient legends call it the Watcher in the sky. Every ancient culture revered it, not as a rock, but as a presence, a mirror of gods, a machine of time, a silent observer that's been here longer than anything we know. If the moon truly predates our sun and planets, then it isn't a moon at all. It's a visitor, a relic from another age, another system, maybe even another universe. And it's been watching us since long before there was an us to watch.
During World War II, the Nazis were obsessed with more than conquest. They were hunting power beyond this world. Ancient artifacts, lost civilizations, and secret technologies. But what if their greatest secret wasn't found on Earth, but given to them from the stars? Hidden deep within the archives of Nazi Germany are reports so bizarre they sound like science fiction. Documents describing contact with extraterrestrial beings. The Nazi elite believed these superior intelligences were the original Aryan gods, visitors from another world, returning to guide humanity or to reclaim it. In 1936, according to declassified intelligence files, a mysterious craft reportedly crashed in the Black Forest of Germany. Recovered by the SS, it was said to be reverse-engineered under the direction of the Vril Society, a secretive occult group that believed in harnessing a cosmic energy called Vril, said to be the power of the gods. Witnesses later spoke of strange, circular aircraft seen above German skies, glowing, silent, moving in ways no human machine could. The Nazis called them Die Glock, the bell, a project so secret that even Hitler himself may not have known its full scope. Some say it wasn't a weapon, but a communication device, a portal meant to open contact with other beings. At the end of the war, these experiments vanished. Scientists disappeared. Documents were burned. And yet, after the Nazis fell, the United States and the Soviet Union suddenly leapt decades ahead in aerospace technology, as if someone had inherited the spoils of a cosmic alliance. Could it be that the supposed UFO crashes after the war were not new visitors, but the same technology that Nazi Germany once held? And if they truly made contact, what did they learn or unleash that changed the course of human history forever? Perhaps that's why even now, governments still hide the truth behind national security. Because maybe the first contact with extraterrestrials didn't happen in Roswell, New Mexico, but in Nazi Germany, in the shadows of a war that may not have been fought entirely by humans.
What if the secrets of our past were not written on stone or papyrus, but stored inside crystals? Long before computers, hard drives, or even written language, Ancient civilizations may have discovered a technology that could store and transmit information using the very building blocks of the Earth. Throughout history, ancient cultures revered crystals, not as jewelry, but as tools of power and memory. The Egyptians called quartz the stone of light. The Mayans carved entire skulls from it, believing they contained the knowledge of the gods. And deep within temples from Tibet to Atlantis legends, crystals were said to record every vibration, every word, every thought that ever passed near them. Modern science now confirms something astonishing. Crystals can store data. In 2012, researchers successfully encoded digital files into quartz glass where they could last billions of years without decay. Every pattern of light, every structure of atoms can act as a cosmic memory chip far beyond our current understanding. So, what if ancient civilizations already knew this? What if the crystal skulls, the glowing gems in lost temples, and the mysterious orbs mentioned in Vedic texts were not symbols of magic, but technology? Devices that stored entire libraries of knowledge, maps of the stars, or even the history of a forgotten age. Some researchers claim ancient ruins emit faint electromagnetic signals, as if the stones themselves are still broadcasting data. Could the Great Pyramid's granite chambers, rich in quartz, have functioned as a giant information capacitor, a living archive waiting to be reactivated? Maybe that's why so many legends speak of crystal archives hidden underground, from the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx to the shining tablets of Thoth. They might not be myths at all, but encrypted storage from a world that existed long before ours. If this is true, then our ancestors weren't primitive, they were technologists of spirit and matter, recording their legacy not on paper, but in light. And somewhere, deep within the earth, the crystal libraries of the ancients may still be humming, waiting for humanity to remember how to read them.
For thousands of years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood in silence, a monument to genius, mystery, and impossible precision. But what if its true purpose was not to honor the dead, but to open the heavens? Because hidden in its perfect alignment lies a secret that even modern science can't fully explain. The Great Pyramid isn't just pointed at the stars, it's synchronized with them. Each side faces true north, south, east, and west with near mathematical perfection, a precision we can barely achieve even with satellites. And the pyramid's internal shafts? They're not random tunnels. They point directly to the Orion Belt and Sirius, the same stars ancient Egyptians believed were the gateway to the afterlife. But what if afterlife was just a coded word for elsewhere? Some researchers now suggest the Great Pyramid wasn't a tomb at all, but a resonant energy device, a machine that harnessed sound, vibration, and geometry to open an energetic stargate. The granite in its chambers is rich in quartz, a crystal known to amplify frequency. And when sound reverberates through its narrow passages, it creates a standing wave, a pulse that interacts with the Earth's magnetic field. Could this be how the ancients opened a doorway between worlds? A gateway not of stone, but of frequency. Even more mysterious, satellite imaging has revealed magnetic anomalies around Giza, as if the pyramid still hums with dormant energy. And ancient hieroglyphics show pharaohs ascending beams of light toward the stars, a literal depiction of transportation through energy. The ancients called it the House of Ascension. Some say it was built over a node of planetary power, a convergence point where cosmic energy flows strongest, a key in Earth's grid that, when activated, could connect our world to the cosmic network beyond.
So maybe the Great Pyramid wasn't meant to hold a king, but to launch one, not into death, but into the stars. And perhaps when the stars realign again, when Orion rises in the same position as it did in the ancient past, the Great Pyramid's true purpose will awaken, and the Stargate of Giza will open once more.
What if humanity didn't evolve naturally, but was designed? Not by gods, but by beings from the stars. Every culture on Earth has a story of gods descending from the sky, not in spirit, but in shining ships. They came, they created, they taught, and then they vanished. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. According to their tablets, the oldest written records ever found, these beings arrived thousands of years ago and engineered mankind to serve them. They weren't just myth. The Sumerians described their tools, their cities, even their science. Gods mixing their own DNA with that of early humans to create a new species. Us. Hybrids built to think, to work, and to worship. Modern science, strangely, backs up part of the tale. Because deep inside our genome lies something unexplainable, a genetic jump that happened 200,000 years ago. No slow evolution, no missing link, just a sudden leap in intelligence and ability, as if someone rewrote our code. Even today, scientists find junk DNA, sequences that seem intentionally placed, like signatures left behind by unknown engineers. Some researchers believe these patterns resemble programmed data, mathematical precision beyond natural mutation. Ancient texts across the globe echo the same theme. From the Maya to the Dogon, from Egypt to India, the gods didn't just create humans, they tinkered with us. They promised to return when the experiment was complete. Were the angels of religion and aliens of science the same entities seen through different eyes? Did they leave behind clues, the monuments, the megaliths, the DNA itself, to remind us of our true origin? If humanity was engineered, then evolution wasn't a random miracle. It was a project. And the architects, they may still be watching, waiting to see if their greatest creation has finally become self-aware.
For centuries, the Colossus of Rhodes has been described as a towering bronze statue, a wonder of the ancient world, built to honor the sun god Helios. But what if this legendary giant wasn't just a statue, but a machine? Ancient texts never agreed on what the Colossus actually did. Some said it moved. Others claimed it spoke, its eyes glowing in the sunlight, its body shimmering like fire. But how could a bronze sculpture built over 2,000 years ago seem so alive? Because maybe it was alive. Across Greek myths and records, there are countless mentions of automata, self-moving machines built by gods and inventors. Hephaestus, the divine blacksmith, was said to forge metal beings that could walk, think, and serve him. And one of his greatest creations was Talos, a giant bronze man who guarded the island of Crete. He patrolled the shores, hurled stones at intruders, and his veins flowed not with blood, but with ichor, a mysterious golden fluid of power. Now think, what if the Colossus of Rhodes wasn't a mythic statue of worship, but the last attempt to recreate Talos, a real mechanical guardian standing at the harbor, powered by lost ancient technology, perhaps even magnetism or something more advanced?
When ancient engineers described the Colossus, they noted its hollow interior reinforced with iron beams and complex joints, not unlike the inner framework of a machine. And when it finally fell during an earthquake, eyewitnesses said its pieces were so massive few could clasp their arms around its thumb. Bronze plating, inner chambers, and strange mechanisms that no one understood. Does that sound just like a statue? Some researchers believe the Colossus was a functional automaton, capable of movement or light projection, perhaps even powered by solar heat, a literal embodiment of Helios, the sun god. And when it fell, its secrets were scavenged and buried, just like every trace of the lost Greek mechanical age. An era that also gave us the Antikythera mechanism, a clockwork computer 1,000 years ahead of its time. Maybe the Colossus of Rhodes wasn't simply a monument to the gods. It was one, a machine built to guard, to awe, and to remind humanity that once the ancients wielded a technology that breathed life into metal.
Across every continent, in every culture, there's a story that rises above the rest. A great flood, a deluge so vast that it wiped out entire civilizations. From the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia to the story of Noah in the Bible, from the Hindu Matsya avatar to the Native American flood legends, these myths are strikingly similar. Not in detail, but in essence. The same warning, the same catastrophe, repeated across millennia. Could it be coincidence or evidence of a single global cataclysm? Geological evidence suggests it might be real. Ancient shorelines, buried cities, and massive sediment layers point to a sudden rise in sea levels thousands of years ago. Some researchers believe a comet, asteroid, or pole shift could have triggered the event, drenching coastlines, drowning cities, and forcing survivors to spread the story across the world. Why would every culture remember it? Because the flood didn't just destroy land, it reset human civilization. Lost knowledge, forgotten technologies, entire empires erased. And the survivors became the storytellers, guardians of a warning for future generations that the earth is fragile and history can be erased in a heartbeat. Even today, echoes remain. Submerged ruins in the Black Sea, mysterious underwater cities off Japan, and ancient maps showing coastlines long vanished, all hinting that the flood was not just myth, but reality written into every culture's memory. Every flood story carries a hidden truth. Humanity has survived cataclysm before, and the memory of it has been preserved in myth, art, and religion. Because the flood was more than water. It was a global reset, a shared event that shaped the human story, and one we may still be trying to understand.
What if human history isn't a straight line, but a cycle? A story that keeps restarting every few thousand years? What if every great civilization, Atlantis, Egypt, Sumer, even ours, has risen, flourished, and then been wiped clean by catastrophic events that reset everything? Ancient myths, old maps, and forbidden texts all whisper the same truth. Humanity has faced multiple global resets, floods, firestorms, solar flares, impacts, and ice, each one erasing nearly all traces of the world before it. The ancient Egyptians called it the Zep Tepi, the first time, an age before recorded history when gods ruled the earth. The Maya wrote of repeated suns, each world ending in disaster before a new one began. And Hindu texts describe entire ages, yugas, that end in destruction and rebirth. Modern science quietly agrees. The Earth's crust bears the scars of mass extinctions, the Younger Dryas impact 12,800 years ago, volcanic winters, and sudden magnetic shifts. Each time, civilization seems to vanish, then reappear out of nowhere as if someone pressed restart. Look at the ancient ruins that don't fit the timeline, massive stone structures that survived the last cataclysm while everything else was erased. Göbekli Tepe, Baalbek, Pumapunku, they stand like survivors from a forgotten age. What if those builders weren't primitive? What if they were the last remnants of the world before the last reset, trying to warn the next civilization, us? Maybe that's why we find pyramids aligned to the stars, megaliths built to mark the heavens, and myths of gods descending after each destruction. They weren't stories, they were records. Because history doesn't just move forward, it loops. And we are just another chapter in a book that's been written and erased countless times before. The question is, when will the next reset come?